In 1692, a scientist proposed Earth was hollow, with inhabited shells inside. By 1947, Admiral Byrd allegedly flew through a polar opening and met beings who warned us to stop building nuclear weapons. They had flying discs, advanced technologies, and a message. This is the story of the hollow Earth theory. The hollow Earth theory didn't start with conspiracy theorists or fringe internet forums. It started with one of the most respected scientists of the 17th century, Edmund Halley. And if you're thinking, that guy's name sounds familiar, he's the guy that discovered Halley's Comet. In 1692, Halley was trying to solve a problem. Compass readings across the globe were showing magnetic variations that didn't make any sense to him. His solution was to propose that Earth wasn't solid. Instead, he theorized it had a rigid outer shell about 800 miles thick, with two inner shells and a solid core inside of that. These shells rotated at different speeds and had their own magnetic poles, which would explain why he had those weird compass behaviors. But here's where it gets interesting. He didn't stop at the physics. He suggested that between these shells were atmospheres, and these atmospheres were luminous, meaning they gave off their own light. He even proposed that the space between the shells was possibly inhabited. Halley thought the aurora borealis, the northern lights, were caused by these luminous gases escaping to the surface. So right from the beginning, a legitimate scientist gave the world a framework, a viable internal environment with its own light source, a place where life could theoretically exist. That scientific validation, even though it was eventually disproven, gave the theory enough credibility for others to build on it. Okay, now let's fast forward to the early 1800s. An American Army captain named John Cleves Sims Jr. took Halley's idea and made it tangible. Sims proposed that the Earth's outer shell had massive openings at both the north and south poles. He called them the Sims holes. And by the way, if you're looking this up, Sims is spelled S-Y-M-M-E-S. All right, but these weren't small openings. Sims estimated they were between 1,400 and 2,300 kilometers across. He believed they curved smoothly inward, leading to a wondrous hidden world beneath our feet, lush with vegetation and animals. And he didn't just theorize this, he actively campaigned for the U.S. government to fund an expedition. He pitched his theory of concentric spheres and solar voids to Congress. He wanted to go find these polar entrances and prove they existed. He spent years on this mission, though he died before securing the funding. But his legacy lived on. His gravestone had a hollowed earth carved into the top, and more importantly, his work transformed the hollow earth from scientific theory into an achievable geographic objective. If the entrances were real, they could be found, they could be explored, and that idea would have massive implications later. In 1871, British novelist Edward Bulwer Lytton published a book called The Coming Race. It was fiction, but it introduced concepts that would become foundational to the modern hollow earth belief system. The book described a superior subterranean race called the Vril. They lived beneath the surface of the earth and possessed a powerful psychokinetic energy called Vril, and they were planning to use this power to conquer the surface world. This was a turning point. The hollow earth wasn't just a geographical curiosity anymore. It was home to advanced beings with technology far beyond ours. And they had hostile intentions. The concept of Vril was immediately absorbed into esoteric and occult movements. It gave the inner earth a power and a motivation. The beings down there weren't just surviving, they were thriving, and they had plans to kill us all. Around the same time, another concept emerged, Agartha. This legendary underground kingdom, often said to be located beneath Central Asia, became the spiritual and political center of the hollow earth narrative. A French writer whose name I can't pronounce claimed in the 1870s that he had accessed ancient Indian manuscripts describing a destroyed city called Agartha. Later, writers, particularly occultists, placed this civilization permanently inside the earth. According to the mythology, Agartha is led by the king of the world, a supreme figure who secretly controls surface events. The inhabitants are called Ascend Masters, and they reside in something called the Grand Lodge of Agartha. The story goes that important historical figures like Jesus, Pythagoras, etc., traveled to Agartha to receive orders from the masters of the world. Very shadow government. A spiritual hierarchy controlling human destiny from unreachable headquarters deep within the planet. Agartha is also frequently linked to Shambhala, the mythical Buddhist kingdom, which ties the theory to ancient Asian mysticism and gives it a sense of deep historical legitimacy. And here's the connection. Some esoteric writings explicitly link Agartha to the Vril force. So now you have spiritual authority combined with unmatched technological power. The inner civilization is divinely guided and advanced. The hollow earth theory took a dark turn in the 20th century when it became entangled with Nazi occultism. Post-World War II conspiracy narratives frequently claim that senior Nazi leaders, possibly even Hitler, didn't die but instead escaped to an underground base. This theory centers on New Schwabenland, a territorial claim the Nazis made in Antarctica. The story goes that the Nazis were obsessed with the occult, and an inner circle called the Vril Society actively sought contact with supernatural beings beneath the earth. They wanted to access the powers of Vril, which they believed would give them a technological edge. After the war, the narrative evolved. Some believed the Nazis found sanctuary in the hollow earth, protected by the Vril force. This theory attempts to explain why certain high-ranking officials were never found and accounts for rumors of Nazi UFOs and advanced technology that seemed to appear out of nowhere. The fusion of occultism and technological secrecy created a potent conspiracy. The hollow earth became both the source and the refuge for advanced warfare capabilities that the Allies never fully understood. The most compelling modern piece of the hollow earth puzzle involves Admiral Richard Byrd, one of the most famous American polar explorers. Byrd is credited with flying over both the North and South Poles, but conspiracy theorists believe Byrd made a secret Arctic mission in 1947 around the same time as Operation High Jump, a massive U.S. Navy expedition to Antarctica. The theory is that Byrd was searching for the polar entrance, and he found it. The evidence comes from a diary allegedly kept by Byrd, published years later by Dr. Raymond Bernard in a book called The Hollow Earth. Very creative name. According to this diary, Byrd took off on February 19, 1947. As he approached the North Pole, his flight instruments started malfunctioning. At 10 a.m., he saw an unexpected mountain range, and beyond it, a flourishing green valley. The description is stunning. Rolling green hills, trees, a small river. The light was different, and the sun couldn't be seen, which matches Halley's theory of a luminous internal atmosphere. Byrd even allegedly saw a woolly mammoth and other prehistoric animals, suggesting that the inner Earth was biologically a time capsule, isolated from surface evolution. But the most important part of the story is what happened next. Byrd reportedly encountered flying discs. He was brought before the inhabitants, highly advanced beings who had avoided the dark ages that stalled surface scientific progress. They gave him a message. The beings told Byrd to deliver a warning to the surface world. Change your warlike ways before it's too late. This reframes the entire narrative. The inner civilization wasn't planning to conquer us like the Vrilia. They were acting as custodians, protectors. They were intervening because we had developed nuclear weapons, and they were concerned about what we would do with that power. Byrd wrote that there comes a time when inevitability of truth outshines rationality. He felt a duty to document what he found, even if it would never be made public. And that's the key. The diary was supposedly kept secret. The government allegedly sealed it away, calling it the greatest secret since the Manhattan Project. The implication is that surface governments knew about the inner civilization and chose to ignore the warning. There are many other theories about the hollow earth and where it came from, what is in there, but here's what we can verify. Edmund Halley did propose a hollow earth model in 1692 to explain magnetic anomalies. John Sims did campaign for a polar expedition. Edward Bulwer Lytton did write The Coming Race. Admiral Byrd was a real explorer who conducted polar missions. But the diary, the secret 1947 flight to the inner world, the encounter with advanced beings, none of that can be verified. The diary was published decades after Byrd's death, and there's no independent evidence that it's authentic. The Nazi connection to the Vril Society is also murky. While the Nazis were interested in occultism, big time, the Vril Society itself is poorly documented and may have been exaggerated or fabricated in post-war conspiracy literature. What we're left with is a fascinating tapestry of speculation, blending real scientific history with fiction, occultism, and cult war anxieties. The hollow earth theory is less about geology and more about what we fear and what we hope exists beyond our understanding, a hidden world, a secret power, beings who know more than we do and are watching from below. Whether you believe it or not, the theory endures because it offers something compelling, an answer to the unknown.